Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Final segment of your First and 12 right here with you on a Sunday morning. Also heard on KSL News Radio from 3 to 5 on Sundays as well. You can join Mitch Harper on Cougar Sports Saturday every week and on Cougar Nation tomorrow on KSL News Radio. He and Matt Baiamonte taking your calls. I'm on with JJ and Alex, our program on the KSL Sports Zone every afternoon from 3 to 6 on the KSL Sports Zone. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow, Mitch, on our show, on you guys' Cougar Nation. Tons going on, of course. Hey, Jimbo Fisher is available. Turns out he got fired this morning from Texas A&M. Just a cool $75 million if you want to buy that guy out. So nice way to be a bad coach in the college ranks if you're at a university that the donors are paying $75 million to buy out your head coach if it's not working out. Just think about the disparity there, not just on the money, but just the ability to go, yeah, we don't like you anymore, you're gone. And BYU does not have that luxury. I know people were saying it last night after that loss, but, man, that's not how it works in Provo, and it never will work like that, I don't think.
It never will, but I do think that, Kalani Sitake still, I feel, is the right guy for BYU, but, man, he's got to find some answers quick because – as you see in college football, if a guy like Jimbo Fisher, who's got a national championship in his background, if he can get taken down that quick, I mean, things can turn in a hurry. It was just 18 months ago, Jimbo Fisher's like, we got a guy named Slice Bread telling us that we're paying all these recruits. We got the number one class. They're just trying to bring down A&M. And now he's fired. That's how quick college football evolves. So even though Kalani feels like the right guy for BYU, things can turn in a hurry, and that's why when you look ahead to next week and the final 2 weeks of the season, things got to turn around for BYU. And let's dive into that Week 12, Big 12 schedule, Alex, as it's another jam-packed 7-game slate in the Big 12. And you teased it in the previous segment, BYU Breakfast Edition. Cougars going to host Oklahoma. The Sooners coming to Provo for the first time ever. And it's going to be a 10 a.m. kickoff on ABC or ESPN. First time since 2004 BYU's playing a 10 a.m. game.
I will tell you that, that's a weird time frame, but at this point you'll take anything, right? I mean, I don't think there's ever a moment to be able to go, you don't have the luxury of going, we don't like to play at that time of day. There's no such thing that time this year. There's no such thing to being able to do it, and I just don't think a 10 a.m. kick, you should be scared out of your britches right now, BYU fans, from this Oklahoma team, because they're coming in and they have to hold serve here if they're going to want to end up in that Big 12 championship game, and they have to run through you to do it, and they know it, and they're kind of looking forward to and licking their chops at looking at the idea of BYU looking like they're lost right now, and so there's that. I mean, I look at whatever the thing is that you may wonder about this team. I just don't see a lot of questions being answered this next week necessarily. I don't know, Mitch. I'm not high on the idea that BYU is going to figure things out within 6 days here. Maybe you feel differently.
I'm with you completely. This is the worst type of opponent to face after you're in free fall. I mean, that's where you wish you would be facing Houston. You wish you'd be facing maybe another UCF or Cincinnati type game. It was nice at the beginning of the year to say, oh, you got Texas and Oklahoma on the schedule, but now you got to go beat them to qualify for a bowl game. That's tough sledding for BYU. If you got issues last week at night where you're supposedly the vampire team, good luck at 10 a.m. where Oklahoma is actually used to these type of games.
Yes,
they play Red River at 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain. So this is not going to be anything new to them. It's new to BYU, so.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing is, too, if you're at 10 a.m. and you're playing Oklahoma, you are going to be seen by everybody. And if it's a butt kicking, it is going to be seen by everybody. Not that that's not new for BYU this year. They've been blown out on national TV a handful of times already. And, my goodness, a 10 a.m. kick for BYU in Oklahoma. You're not used to that one. Cincinnati and West Virginia, the next one up on the slate there. That's a 12:30 kick. It's going to be on ESPN+. Baylor at TCU. Hey, that's the rivalry game you were looking for between two teams who have kind of nothing to play for right now. I guess for TCU could still get bowl eligible.
It's a protected rivalry in the future in the Big 12, and right now, this week, it ends up in Big 12 now on ESPN+. Oklahoma State at Houston, 2 p.m. ESPN2. Interesting spot to see how the Pokes respond after a disappointing loss at the Bounce House. They go to H-Town to try to lick their wounds and get back on track. They got to get that one because they still have a chance to be in that Big 12 championship race. Speaking of UCF, they're on the road, at Texas Tech, 3 p.m. on FS2. Yikes.
I love how you said FS2 with like a bad taste in your mouth. I like yikes. That's my
you don't
favorite
see many games in the Power 5 end up on FS2. It's like it's not the greatest look.
I would take that over an ESPN Plus. Used to be on Big 12, now on ESPN Plus.
There you go.
The FS1 game, however, and a classy FS1 game. Kansas State versus Kansas, a nice little rivalry game there, sort of. That's a 5 p.m. on FS1, and then to wrap things up, a game that actually looks really, really good at this point. Texas going to Ames. Iowa State feeling themselves after last night, I'm sure, and then licking their chops about the idea of a little bit of a down and injured Texas team who's looking to get to that college football playoff. That's going to be on the Big Fox. Is that good enough for you, Mitch? If they're on the Big Fox.
That is good enough for me. And Ames at night, they've killed dreams for teams. Remember back in, 2011 when Oklahoma State was undefeated? They rolled into Ames and lost. Iowa State, that's always a tricky place. And I got to imagine Jack Trice Stadium's going to be just sold out, last chance to play Texas, because Texas is never going to schedule Iowa State again when they go to the SEC. So this is the last crack at the Longhorns, and Cyclones, I think they're going to be ready. I mean, I thought West Virginia was going to be ready against Oklahoma, but that was on the road. Teams in this Big 12, we have learned that if you're the home team, unless you're BYU, you're going to have a chance. You're going to be competitive in these games. Even BYU. I mean, BYU was 4-1 this year in home games, so home venues matter in the Big 12 Conference. So maybe Iowa State could spring the upset.
I just saw some weird – you want to hear some weird wire, all of the fun, rumors that are going on this morning? We might as well get into it. A picture of Kyle Whittingham and what Texas A&M message boards are hoping is going to happen for the new hire for the coach at Texas A&M. Could you imagine bringing in a defensive coach at Texas A&M?
Hey.
And just the idea of Coach Witt and the rumor of that, wild stuff we're living
Texas
in here in
A&M would be well served to have Kyle Whittingham as their head coach.
Yeah,
you wonder if Witt would want one last crack at something else, because I gotta imagine he doesn't. I don't know his real temperature on the Big 12 move. He hasn't really shared that much. He just kind of defaults to, we're focused on the season, we'll focus on that down the road. But you kind of wonder. I mean, if they threw an $80 million contract his way.
Oh my goodness. I mean,
how could you refuse at the highest level in the SEC?
Yeah, the thing is I just don't know if he wants to. Like, would you want to inherit a bizarre situation? You're not familiar with the culture they're running there. You would try to establish yours, and they'd be like, "That's not how we do things down here." And it is a situation that is a lose-lose for everybody. And College Station is cursed, man. I'm telling you. All right, Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry, it's your First and 12 every Sunday morning right here with you on KSL News Radio and on the KSL Sports Zone. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry, like I said. Our producer, Eric, phenomenal job as always, as he does every week with us, and it's nice to be flexible to our weird hours as BYU has these weird game times, and we have early morning sometimes and late nights. So there you go. Mitch, fun one again this week, man. Thanks for hanging out again.
It's always a pleasure, Alex. I love this show, and hopefully all the Big 12 fans out there are appreciating the content every single week. I know we're loving doing this show every single week, 10 a.m. to noon, and we'll be back next week to recap BYU, Oklahoma, and all the latest around Big 12 football. Talk to you next week, folks.